Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 76 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. Ji Yu Tong was stunned. He had heard Ji Yu Mengqi and the rest talk about Lin Dong before. However, he merely thought that he was a junior from the younger generation. However, who could have imagined that this man, whom he perceived to be a junior younger generation member, was in fact a peak reincarnation stage expert. Beside him, Ji Yu Mengqi and Ji Yu Yang covered their lips in shock. Meanwhile, their pretty eyes were all filled with shock. Ha ha, it is actually Cave Chief Wu Xian. Lin Dong's eyes moved, before he turned to look at Wu Xian and laughed softly. Meanwhile, there was a playful tone in his soft laughter. When he realized that Lin Dong was staring at him, Wu Xian's body stiffened while cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Then, he laughed dryly. It is actually young brother Lin Dong. He was not a fool. Although he had touched reincarnation currently, he knew that there was still a massive gap between him and a genuine reincarnation stage expert. In fact, if Lin Dong wanted to make a move on him, it was likely that there was nothing he could do. Lin Dong smiled faintly and he hardly paid any attention to Wu Xian. All he did was to focus his attention on Ji Yu Mengqi and Ji Yu Yang. Then, he cupped his hands together and laughed, "Miss Mengqi, Miss Ji Yu Yang. It has been a long time since we last met." Lin Dong ignored all the leaders present and only greeted Ji Yu Mengqi and Ji Yu Yang. His action was clearly somewhat inappropriate. However, owing to his frightening strength, no one dared to object. Instead, all of them lowered their heads, while their faces were all filled with fear and respect. The Ji Yu Mengqi duo exchanged glances. After which, they gave Lin Dong a sweet and beautiful smile. Meanwhile, their pretty eyes were all filled with joy. Lin Dong turned his head after greeting the two ladies. Then, he looked towards the stone tower in the middle of the island. However, this time around, he detected an extremely ancient and powerful aura radiating from it. The Chaos Master Ha. The atmosphere in front of the building was a strange one. Currently, the leaders of the various factions in the Heaven Wind Sea region all felt a chill over their bodies. In fact, the experts from the Wei clan all had ashen faces, and Wei Zhen's body was even trembling. With fear in his eyes, he stared at Lin Dong. After all, never did he imagine that this famous little fellow from before was actually so frightening now. With his current strength, it was likely that he could exterminate the entire Wei clan with the flip of his palm. However, Lin Dong merely glanced at him and it seemed like he had no plans to make life difficult for them. After all, once one's strength reached a certain level, ants like them could hardly provoke him. "Ha ha, young brother Lin Dong, I have long heard about your great name." At this moment, the leader of the Ji Yu clan, Ji Yu Tong, had also recovered his senses. Suppressing the waves in his heart, he smiled towards Lin Dong. In fact, when he saw that Lin Dong had greeted Ji Yu Mengqi and Ji Yu Yang, instead of feeling displeased in his heart, he felt great joy. Regardless, it was best as long as Ji Yu clan remained on his good side. As the leader of the Ji Yu clan, he clearly knew what a peak reincarnation stage expert represented. In fact, even though nearly every single expert from the Heaven Wind Sea region was gathered on the Martial Gathering Island, they were nothing in the eyes of a peak reincarnation stage expert. "This is my grandfather, the clan leader of the Ji Yu clan, Ji Yu Tong." Ji Yu Mengqi softly introduced. "Greetings to the clan leader of the Ji Yu clan." Lin Dong cupped his hands together towards Ji Yu Tong. After all, he had a good impression of the Ji Yu clan. Moreover, Ji Yu Tong had indirectly helped him in the past, even though he was not acquainted with the former. Ji Yu Tong hurriedly returned his greetings when he heard this. When he detected the envious eyes from around him, his back straightened slightly. Being able to befriend a top expert like Lin Dong was truly a glorious event for their Ji Yu clan. "Lin Dong, why did you come here? The Martial Gathering Island is in big trouble now." Ji Yu Yang involuntarily asked. After all, given what was happening in the Martial Gathering Island, who actually dared to come here now? "I have been tasked by someone to protect a person in that tower." Lin Dong smiled, before he extended his arm and pointed towards the distant chaotic tower. Everyone was stunned. That person in the chaotic tower? Could it be that elder who created the energy barrier? Ji Mengqi and Ji Yang were stunned. However, they chose not to question him further as they simply nodded their heads gently. After which, they turned to look at Ying Huanhuan and Qing Tan, who were standing behind Lin Dong. Both of them were gorgeous ladies. One was icy cold and perfect, while the other was pretty and cute. Moreover, their demeanors were extraordinary. This is Ying Huanhuan, my martial junior from Dao sect. This is my younger sister Qing Tan. When he saw this, Lin Dong smilingly introduced the both of them. Ying Huanhuan and Qing Tan smiled towards those two girls. After which, Ying Huanhuan used her icy blue pretty eyes to sweep across Lin Dong's body. However, there was a strange emotion within her eyes. It was as though she was hinting that Lin Dong had encountered quite a lot of beauties during his cultivation journey. Lin Dong laughed gently after he detected her actions. After which, he turned his attention towards the leaders of the various factions of the Heaven Wind Sea region, before he said, "All of you should be aware of the current situation in the Martial Gathering Island. You will all have to listen to me if you wish to keep your lives. Are there any objections?" There were a huge number of Yimo outside the Martial Gathering Island. If Lin Dong wanted to protect this place, he would have to make use of the people here. After all, by using them to deal with the ordinary Yimo, it could save his time and effort. While his eyes swept across this place, a powerful and pressurizing aura spread and covered the entire place. Immediately, this caused the crowd's hearts to quiver. In fact, even the three Great Caves chiefs did not dare to object. Clan leader Ji Yu, please count the number of people on this island. After which, the various factions will lead their own groups and form a formation. All of you should fight with your full strength once the light barrier is broken. Lin Dong used his stern eyes to look at the crowd, before he said in a faint voice, "I will help all of you to deal with those Yimo whom you guys cannot deal with. However, those ordinary minions will be left to all of you. Now, we are all on the same boat. Hopefully, we will act as one. If anyone dares to play tricks secretly, I will have no choice but to eliminate them." Everyone trembled after they heard his final sentence. Only then did they understand that the person standing in front of them was no kind-hearted soul. What young brother Lin Dong said is right. This matter concerns all our lives. Naturally, we will do our best. The chief of the Heaven Wind Cave hurriedly said. "Huanhuan, Qing Tan, both of you should stay behind and help me to look after this place." Lin Dong nodded upon seeing this. Finally, he turned his head and uttered those words to Ying Huanhuan and Qing Tan. Although the Ji clan was one of the 5 big clans, they were not the strongest faction in the Heaven Wind Sea region. Therefore, without external aid, it was likely going to be a difficult task to get the crowd to submit to them. Ying Huanhuan and Qing Tan nodded. Then, the latter used her pretty eyes before she surveyed this place. After all, she was the palace master of the Darkness Palace and she was well versed with such matters. After he finished speaking, Lin Dong did not linger on. Instead, a silver light flashed across his body before he appeared in front of the chaotic tower immediately. Subsequently, he directly charged towards the highest level of the chaotic tower. Everyone was stunned when they saw that he could successfully enter the highest level of the chaotic tower. However, though they were secretly shocked, they did not dare to speak up. "Everyone, please organize your subordinates. It is a complete mess now and it is a strain on my eyes." The cute and lively expression on Qing Tan's pretty face slowly disappeared after she saw Lin Dong entering the chaotic tower. Then, she clenched her small hand before her huge darkness and scythe appeared. Following which, she swung her scythe before everyone saw a huge spatial crack appearing in the sky. Immediately, they inhaled a cold breath of air. Clearly, they did not expect that this beautiful and cute girl was actually this frightening as well. Everyone should hurry up. I am quite an impatient person. Should I accidentally sweep all of you out from the island, Big Brother Lin Dong will definitely reprimand me. Qing Tan was hugging her darkness-sent scythe as she said in a lazy manner. Understood. Understood. When they heard Qingtan's quiet and implicit threat, cold sweat began to roll off the foreheads of the leaders of the various factions in the Heaven Wind Sea region. Then, they hurriedly retreated and began to organize their own subordinates. After all of them were afraid that they might accidentally offend this little grandaunt, whose demeanor had changed the instant Lin Dong left. Ying Huan looked at the lively scene on this island. However, there were hardly any emotions in her icy blue eyes. Instead, she merely looked at the chaotic tower before she muttered to herself, "Chaos Master her." A purple gold ocean appeared in Lin Dong's sight when he first entered the highest level of the chaotic tower. The purple gold energy here was mighty and violent, and they filled every corner of this place. Lin Dong looked at this ocean-like purple gold energy before he smiled gently. In the past, when he first came to the chaotic tower, just obtaining some of this purple gold energy that had seeped out from this place had already benefited him tremendously. However, as of now, this energy was no longer attractive to him. Lin Dong's eyes swept across this purple gold place. After which, his body flashed before he headed rapidly towards the middle. This was because he could sense an ancient and powerful aura gathering at that spot. Lin Dong's body flashed. A couple of minutes later, he finally stopped. After which, with shock in his eyes, he stared at his front. At that spot, resplendent purple gold light was scattering forth. Meanwhile, there was a 10,000 feet large giant seated in the middle of that purple gold light. Moreover, those ocean-like purple gold energy were continuously entering his body through his breath. That giant's body was purple gold in color and he had rough skin. However, under this roughness was power and might that could not be described with words. Clearly, this purple gold giant was the Chaos Master, one of the 8 ancient masters. In fact, he was also the man with the strongest physical body in the world. Chaos Master. Lin Dong's body was hovering in front of that purple gold giant. Compared to the latter, he was as tiny as an ant. Meanwhile, when he detected how powerful the latter's physical body was, this caused the primal dragon bone within his body to involuntarily emit a buzzing sound. In fact, it felt as though they wanted to challenge this giant. Buzz! Vast and mighty purple gold light suddenly swept out from within the body of that purple gold giant. After which, he slowly opened his tightly shut eyes. Immediately, 2 purple gold rays of light swept towards Lin Dong. A powerful pressure enveloped Lin Dong after that giant locked his eyes onto him. Roar! An earth-shaking dragon roar was suddenly emitted from within Lin Dong's body. Up against such pressure, resplendent purple gold light also swept out from within Lin Dong's body. After which, they transformed into a 10,000 feet large purple gold dragon behind him. Primal Dragon Bone. The giant finally spoke after he saw that huge purple gold dragon. Meanwhile, his surprised voice was like thunder, as it shook the entire place. "I am Lin Dong. Pleased to meet you, Chaos Master." Lin Dong cupped his hands towards the Chaos Master before he said in a clear and loud voice. "Are you Lin Dong? The Flame Master has already told me about you. You are indeed something special." The Chaos Master laughed. Though he had a simple and honest look, his large purple gold eyes occasionally revealed a sharp glint which completely destroyed his simple and honest image. Lin Dong nodded gently. He could detect just how powerful the Chaos Master was. However, as of now, the latter's aura was still a little sluggish. Clearly, it was because the latter had yet to make a complete recovery. "I'm afraid that I will have to trouble you this time around. I am at a critical juncture in my recuperation and all I need are 5 more days before I make a completely recovery. However, I believe that those creatures from the Devil Prison will not allow me to do so. Hence, I hope that you can guard this island during the next 5 days." The Chaos Master cupped his hands together and said, "Since I was tasked by the Flame Master, I will naturally do my best to protect this island." Lin Dong nodded and said, "Originally, those creatures from the Devil Prison could not detect my presence. However, as I gradually recovered, my aura became increasingly powerful and this ended up allowing them to detect my location." The Chaos Master paused. Suddenly he asked, "Little junior sister is also here, am I right? I can sense her aura." Lin Dong hesitated for a moment before nodding. The Chaos Master smiled. With a strange expression in his eyes, he glanced at Lin Dong. However, he did not say anything. Clearly, he also knew about the relationship between Lin Dong and Ying Huan. This time around, a Sikh king will definitely show up. Can you handle it? Lin Dong gave a gentle smile before he nodded his head. With his current strength, as long as it was not a Sikh king who had passed 3 reincarnation tribulations, there was no need for him to fear. In that case, I will have to thank you for protecting me. The Chaos Master stared at Lin Dong. After which, he spoke quizzically, I also wish to find out just how capable the man, that little junior sister greatly values, is. After Lin Dong had a brief chat with the Chaos Master, he did not linger in the chaotic tower. Currently, the latter was at a critical juncture in his recuperation and it was best to provide him with a quiet environment. When Lin Dong left the chaotic tower, he promptly saw the commotion on the island. Currently, across various parts of the island, there were numerous individuals scuttling around. Occasionally, some stern cries would sound out. However, thanks to these stern cries, the originally chaotic island gradually became orderly as various factions gathered together. In fact, it was much more organized compared to the mess before. With the darkness scent scythe in her hand, Qingtan stood in the sky as she lazily looked at the scene below. Occasionally, she would gently swing the scythe in her hand. Subsequently, an extremely frightening wind would whiz downwards before it would accidentally land in the vicinity of certain individuals, who were clearly taking their time. Instantly, the land beneath would crack and those people would be so frightened that they became drenched in cold sweat immediately. After which, none of them dared to slack off anymore as they hurriedly moved. After all, they were afraid that the hand of that little grandaunt might slip, and cause the Grim Reaper-like scythe in her hand to land on their heads. This lass. When Lin Dong saw this scene, he secretly chuckled in his heart. This lass was indeed quite capable. In fact, she was even able to manage the massive Darkness Palace. Therefore, although the martial gathering island was in chaos, it did not pose any difficulties to her. Big brother Lin Dong. Qingtan also realized that Lin Dong had left the chaotic tower. Immediately, a sweet smile appeared on her pretty face before she swiftly flew towards him. Meanwhile, she kept the darkness scent scythe in her small hand. Her lovely and cheerful demeanor was in complete contrast to the icy cold expression she had from before. This caused many experts, who were thoroughly whipped by her, to be taken aback. Lin Dong smiled at Qingtan. After which, the both of them headed towards a building. The many leaders of the various factions in the Heaven Wind Sea region hurriedly stood up and greeted them upon seeing this. Have you met the Chaos Master? Ying Huan was seated elegantly, before she used her icy blue pretty eyes to look at Lin Dong and softly inquired. I? Lin Dong nodded. I'm afraid that we will have to guard the martial gathering island for the next 5 days. Chaos Master? Young brother Lin Dong, what is going on? Everyone was at a loss after they heard their conversation. Then, the leader of the Jiyu clan, Jiyu Tong, asked involuntarily. That person in the chaotic tower is the Chaos Master, one of the 8 ancient masters. As long as we can guard this place for the next 5 days, he will be able to come out from his seclusion. At that time, the crisis will be resolved. Lin Dong smilingly said. The Chaos Master was about to show up and there was no longer a need to hide. 8 ancient masters. When the crowd heard his words, some of them were clearly at a loss, while others had a face filled with shock. Evidently, they had heard about these peak experts from the ancient times. However, they never expected that a renowned expert in the ancient times was actually lying within the chaotic tower. Everyone, the martial gathering island is currently being surrounded. For the next 5 days, we are all on the same boat. Hopefully, everyone can work together in order to tide over this crisis. Otherwise, it is likely that none of us can escape. Lin Dong's eyes swept across the crowd as he slowly said. Understood. Everyone felt their hearts tremble when they saw his glare. Then, they quickly replied in an extremely respectful manner. Initially, all of them were in despair as they were being trapped in this location. However, after Lin Dong showed up, it brought hope to their hearts. Therefore, they would definitely do their best in order to protect this glimmer of hope. Lin Dong waved his hand before the crowd was dismissed. After they left, there was only 3 people remaining in the building. Promptly, Lin Dong gently sighed in relief. However, there was a grave expression within his eyes. "What is it?" Ying Huan asked after she saw Lin Dong's expression. "I'm afraid that it is not going to be an easy task to survive the next 5 days," Lin Dong said. He had a premonition that this matter would not go smoothly. After all, the Chaos Master was about to regain his peak strength, and once he recovered, he would be a massive threat to the Devil Prison. Since the Devil Prison did their best to trap the Thunderbolt Master, Darkness Master, and the rest, how could they possibly give up on such an opportunity easily? "We'll face the problem when it arrives. To be honest, there is no need for us to fear them. Though they might be able to hold back the Thunderbolt Master and the rest, they would have to send out their elite fighting force," Ying Huan said. Lin Dong nodded. Currently, the Thunderbolt Master and the rest were at their peak condition. Therefore, even though the Devil Prison was extremely powerful, in order to deal with them, they had to dispatch their elite fighting force. Hence, it was likely that the Devil Prison could not afford to dispatch too many top experts to deal with them. Lin Dong lifted his head. Then, he looked at the deep yellow light barrier covering the island before he released a deep breath. Regardless, since he had given his word, he must protect the Chaos Master. After all, if he failed to do so, he would only end up being looked down by those ancient masters. The despairing atmosphere on the island was greatly reduced after Lin Dong and the rest showed up. Regardless, many people still felt great respect and fear towards a reincarnation stage expert. Therefore, in their opinion, with such a powerful expert guarding this place, there should be some hope for them. As hope rose, everyone on the island was deployed. After some strategizing, they formed a fighting formation. Then, they briefly trained for 1 day. After which, it looked as though they were ready for battle. At the very least, it was much better compared to the complete mess from before. While the morale on the island was rising, the attacks from the Yimo outside the island also became increasingly intense. Monstrous demonic aura continuously struck that deep yellow energy barrier, causing ripples to churn violently on its surface. When they saw this scene, many people's bodies became drenched in cold sweat. After all of them knew that once that light barrier was broken, an extremely cruel and bloody fight would follow. Time slowly passed by amidst this tensed wait. Many of the experts on the island felt like 1 day was akin to a year. This was the first time that they felt that 5 days was such a long wait. Time slowly flowed by until the 4th day. Meanwhile, the atmosphere on the island also became increasingly tense. This was because there was only a thin layer of that energy light barrier that was protecting them, left in the sky. Lin Dong was sitting quietly at a stone mountain peak in the middle of the island. When he looked at the light barrier in the sky, his dark black eyes became a lot sharper. Soon after, his eyes turned towards the various devil clouds located outside the island. He wondered which Seat King from the Devil Prison was hidden over there. While Lin Dong was staring at the devil clouds outside the island, a cold aura containing a faint fragrance drifted over from beside him. He turned his head slightly and saw Ying Huan walking over to his side. After which, she sat down beside him. Her waist was so narrow and delicate that it gave one the impulse to embrace her. "Are you still worried?" A smile appeared on Ying Huan's face before she asked. Lin Dong smiled and shook his head. Instead, he merely stared at Ying Huan's pretty face. This caused the latter to involuntarily glare at him. Her small hands held her face as she asked, "Why are you looking at me in this manner?" Lin Dong pondered for a moment before he replied, "For some unknown reason, I feel like you are a little like your previous self." Unknowingly, a smile had appeared on her face, which was always covered by a cold aura. Although she was no longer as lively as before, there was now a little warmth to her. "Is that so?" Ying Huan bit her lips with the back of her teeth. Then, she looked at him and asked, "Do you prefer how I am now, or do you prefer how I was in the past?" "You are not allowed to say that you like the both of them," Ying Huan added. Lin Dong grinned. Then, he extended his arm and rubbed her long icy blue hair. Immediately, An icy cold sensation was transmitted to his palm. He was silent for a moment before speaking. I have experienced many life and death bitter training sessions in the chaotic demon sea. At that time, all I was thinking. I wish that you can continue to laugh as happily as before. Ying Huan stared at him in shock. Then, she beamed. Meanwhile, her smile was filled with temptation. After which, she gently leaned on Lin Dong's shoulder. Lin Dong felt her head leaning on his shoulder. This feeling of being relied upon was as though he was her entire world. Drip. Lin Dong secretly sighed. Suddenly, he felt icy drops on his arm. He hurriedly lowered his head only to see that Ying Huan, who was leaning on his shoulder, had reddened eyes. Tears gathered. After which, they turned into ice droplets and fell. What is it? Lin Dong quickly asked. Ying Huan shook her head. Then, she used her icy pretty eyes to look at Lin Dong before she softly said, "One day, if I end up being willful and act as I please, will you promise not to get mad at me?" Lin Dong was startled. He did not know why she would suddenly say this. I was just joking. However, even before Lin Dong could ask, Ying Huan suddenly laughed. Then, she stretched her delicate figure, revealing her alluring curves, before she looked at Lin Dong and said, "It has been a long time since I played the zither for you. Allow me to do so now." She gently swung her hands after she spoke. Then, a blue light surfaced before a zither formed from cold ice appeared. Following which, she extended her seemingly perfect pair of hands, before her fingers landed gently on her zither. A rhythmical and melodious zither music slowly drifted from that mountain peak. Finally, it reverberated in the sky above the island. Thanks to this zither music, the originally tensed atmosphere on the island slowly relaxed. Countless experts were staring at the place where the zither music originated from. At that spot, they could see a beautiful woman gently moving her hands as she sat on top of a stone mountain. Meanwhile, her icy blue long hair was dancing gently. At this moment, she presented a beautiful picture-like image that involuntarily caused one to become intoxicated. Lin Dong looked at the current Ying Huan. Meanwhile, there was an alluring smile on the latter's face. However, for some unknown reason, it caused his heart to twitch gently. Huff. Lin Dong inhaled a deep breath of air, before he slowly clenched both his hands. If he was unable to protect what he wanted to protect, what would be the point of his bitter training? Buzz buzz. All of a sudden, an unusual noise was transmitted from the sky and it disrupted the intoxicating zither music. Countless pairs of eyes immediately turned towards the source. Then, their bodies stiffened when they saw that cracks were slowly spreading on the energy light barrier in the sky. Lin Dong also stood up. Meanwhile, a sharp expression began to gather within his dark black eyes. After which, his frightening aura suddenly rippled and spread. They were finally here. Cracks slowly spread over the humongous deep yellow energy light barrier in the sky. The faint cracking noises caused the entire martial gathering island to become quiet as cold sweat dripped from the foreheads of countless individuals. Lin Dong stood up. His eyes were frosty as he looked at the energy light barrier that was about to shatter. Soon after, he deeply inhaled a breath of air. With a wave of his sleeve, a flash of light shot forward, and turned into a palace of light in the air. It was the mysterious Divine Palace. The mysterious Divine Palace emitted a buzzing sound the moment it appeared as divine equipment flew out and seemed to cover the sky. Subsequently, they flew towards the countless strong individuals on the island. These divine equipment were covered by a thin layer of gentle white light, the power of the ancestral stone. It was able to increase the damage that these weapons could inflict on the Yimo. Everyone, if we manage to get through this calamity, these divine equipment will belong to you. Lin Dong's eyes swept over the entire island as his clear voice sounded. Clamor. An earth-shaking uproar immediately erupted from the island after his words sounded as the eyes of countless experts burned with excitement. They hurriedly grabbed the divine equipment heading towards them. The heat in their eyes appeared to be about to melt these equipment. These divine equipment might not amount to much in Lin Dong's eyes, but they were genuine treasures to these individuals. Normally speaking, obtaining one would be difficult even after expending all means. Yet, Lin Dong had actually given such a large number to them. We will defend Marshall Gathering Island till our last breath. The confidence in the hearts of the countless experts seemed to rise as they held the divine equipment in their hands. Their excited eyes looked at Lin Dong, while their loud cries resounded in a wave-like fashion. Lin Dong nodded as he watched the now high morale. He subsequently looked towards Ying Huan and said, "I will stop any powerful foes that emerge later on. Both you and Qing Tan intercept the other strong Yimo." Although he was aware that the current Ying Huan was quite strong, it was best to use such power as little as possible. Ying Huan lightly nodded. She was aware of Lin Dong's thoughts and naturally would not voice any objections. The light barrier in the sky trembled violently, while countless experts floated in the air above the island. Strong yuan power gushed out of their bodies. The fear that was originally present in their eyes had gradually disappeared in the face of Lin Dong's calmness. Instead, its place, a fierce glint had appeared in their eyes. They had been forced by the Yimo to flee to this place like homeless strays. The anger within their hearts had already reached the peak. Buzz buzz. The light barrier shook increasingly rapidly as the cracks reached their limits. With a final faint crack, the entire light barrier collapsed in the face of the monstrous demonic chi assault. The entire place instantly descended into darkness. The monstrous demonic chi that had lingered outside the island for a long time also revealed its true appearance of ferocity. A loud screech sounded as countless Yimo rushed forward in a locust-like fashion from within the demonic chi clouds and charged towards Marshall Gathering Island. Lin Dong's expression was indifferent as he watched the attacks that blotted out the sun. With a clench of his fist, countless thunderbolts rushed downwards and ruthlessly charged towards the demonic chi clouds. Bang bang! Thunder rumbled as everyone watched countless Yimo scream in misery. Charred black bodies gave off black smoke as they continuously fell from the sky. Charge! Everyone roused themselves as they watched Lin Dong reveal his great power. After which, an earth-shaking roar sounded. Soon after, Yuan power surged crazily as ocean-like attacks swept towards those Yimo at the front. Rumble! Both sides clashed. Yuan power and demonic chi unfurled. There was no warm-up. Both parties entered a crazy slaughter the moment they clashed. Severed arms and legs flew in all directions, while the charging Yimo were instantly blasted into nothingness by countless Yuan power attacks. It was fortunate that the island was currently well fortified. The waves the Yimo were stopped outside of the island, and they were unable to charge in. Lin Dong watched the desperate battle and deeply inhaled a breath of air. After which, he shifted his eyes towards the depths of the demonic chi clouds, where several extremely frightening demonic chi presences were surging. Ying Huan and Qing Tan appeared behind Lin Dong and also looked into the depths of the demonic chi clouds. Compared to those ordinary Yimo, the ones which were about to appear next were going to be truly troublesome to deal with. The demonic chi clouds churned as the Yimo attack unknowingly slowed a little. Subsequently, everyone saw terrifying demonic chi gathering into a vortex in the air above the island. The vortex rotated, and it was as though the space itself was torn apart. Faint footsteps echoed from the demonic chi vortex as a couple of black figures approached from afar. In the end, they slowly stepped out of the demonic chi vortex. Everyone felt the Yuan power of the world suddenly flare up as if they had been stimulated by something when these individuals appeared. Ha ha, Lin Dong, it seems that you appear wherever I go. 6 devil-like figures stood on demonic chi. The person in front looked towards Lin Dong, who was in the sky above the island, in a dark and cold fashion as an indifferent laughter slowly spread. Lin Dong's eyes immediately looked towards the 6 devil-like figures. The leader's appearance was extremely familiar. He was surprisingly the 7th Seat King, who had exchanged blows with Lin Dong back at the northern Xian region. It seems that as enemies, our paths frequently cross. Lin Dong eyed the 7th Seat King and smiled faintly. Back then, he had ended up in a miserable state at the hands of the 7th Seat King. Although he had used the Zenith sensing art to injure the latter, it was fortunate that the Thunderbolt Master had hurried over in time and forced the 7th Seat King to withdraw. It was unexpected that the one who had come to deal with the Chaos Master was also this fellow. Lin Dong's eyes swept across the area behind the 7th Seat King. The 5 other devil-like figures also possessed monstrous demonic chi. The strength of their demonic chi might not match up to the 7th Seat King, but they were at least as strong as those peak experts who had experienced one reincarnation tribulation. The 5 of them were Yimo kings who truly belonged to the true king level. 1 Seat King and 5 true kings. In the face of such a lineup, even the expression of someone like Lin Dong became somewhat grave. This devil prison had really dispatched a rather strong force. The 7th Seat King smiled coldly as he stared at Lin Dong. Ridicule was revealed in the former's eyes. The last time around, the Thunderbolt Master ended up saving you. Who do you think will be able to save you this time around? Those ancient masters are likely unable to free themselves for the time being. Lin Dong smiled as he leisurely replied, I will save myself. With just you. The 7th Seat King mocked. Lin Dong nodded. His expression was exceptionally serious as he stared at the 7th Seat King and slowly said, this time around, I will kill you. The 7th Seat King licked his lips. There was a cruel and bloodthirsty look on his face. He stared at Lin Dong as his eyes took on an exceptionally sinister look. I also wish to say the same. Lin Dong chuckled as his pitch-black eyes stared at the 7th Seat King. Mighty Yuan power gradually spread, drawing in lightning and wind. It was a very intimidating sight. The sky-devouring corpse can deal with one true king. Lin Dong swung his sleeve and the sky-devouring corpse appeared. With its strength, it should not be too difficult for it to deal with a true king. I can deal with one of them, Qingtan said. By relying on the darkness ancestral symbol and the darkness saint scythe, she had the strength to deal with one true king despite having yet advanced to the reincarnation stage. Leave the other 3 to me. Ying Huan smiled slightly. She saw the somewhat worried Lin Dong and said, there is no need to worry. They are but 3 true kings. Lin Dong pursed his lips. However, he could only nod his head. The Yimo had arrived in a torrential manner. All he could do was to stop the 7th Seat King. If any one of the 5 true kings were allowed to act as they please, it was likely that the defense below would be swiftly destroyed. When that happened, the Yimo would charge into the island and they would inevitably disturb the Chaos Master. In that case, let's do it. Lin Dong's eyes suddenly turned icy. He had suffered a loss at the hands of the 7th Seat King back then. This time around, he would make sure to pay the latter back. Lin Dong took a step forward as he clenched his hand, and a silver thunderbolt erupted from within. It roared and turned into a lightning dragon which ferociously charged towards the 7th Seat King. Insignificant tricks. The 7th Seat King let out an indifferent laugh. He flicked his finger and demonic chi sputtered out. The demonic chi quickly entwined around the lightning dragon and suddenly tightened, directly causing the lightning dragon to burst apart. Allow this Seat King to behead you this time around. The 7th Seat King suddenly rushed forth. He clenched his large hand and a devil-like hand descended from the sky. It ruthlessly slammed towards Lin Dong. Lin Dong's body soared into the sky. He let out a long roar as bright purple gold light exploded. The entire sky was dyed into brilliant purple gold color. After which, 10,000 purple gold dragon tattoos coiled around his body. Bang! Lin Dong closed his 5 fingers and threw a punch forward. 10,000 dragons seemed to gallop in the sky as an earth-shaking dragon roar resounded. The wind from the fist seemed to penetrate space and smash towards the devil-like hand. Boom! A frightening energy ripple swept across the sky, causing space to become greatly distorted. We should also go. A cold glint flashed within Ying Huan's icy blue eyes when she saw Lin Dong engage the 7th Seat King in battle. Her figure shot forward as her 5 slim fingers extended. Cold chi spread and transformed into 100,000 feet large mysterious ice prison which surrounded the 3 true kings. After which, a frightening cold spread within the prison as she unleashed formidable attacks towards the 3 true kings. Qingtan also attacked and swung the darkness saint scythe in her hand and firmly held back one true king. The true king was quite wary of the formidable darkness saint scythe. For a time, the 2 of them were locked in battle. The sky-devouring corpse acted in the most blunt manner and fearlessly charged forward. Regardless of how fierce the true king's attacks were, he relied on the devouring properties of its body to persist. Intense battles had broken out in the sky above Marshall Gathering Island. Terrible auras shot towards the clouds, and one could clearly see it even from 1,000 miles away. Lin Dong and the Seventh Seat King faced off at the highest place in the sky. Their expressions were filled with viciousness. They were aware that regardless of how miserable the situation was, this place was the most important battlefield. As long as they could finish off the other party, they would be able to complete the important task that they had respectively received. It would inevitably be a desperate battle. Vast and mighty Yuan power swept across the heavens like an endless ocean. Lin Dong stood in the air while accompanied by wind and lightning. Those pitch-black eyes of his contained a frightening sharpness as he stared at the Seventh Seat King to his front. Monstrous demonic chi was surging around the latter's body. The Seventh Seat King had an exceptional senses. He discerned Lin Dong's current strength with a single glance of the latter's aura. Surprise quickly flashed across his eyes. How did this brat cultivate so quickly? It had only been a couple of months since he last saw the latter, yet the latter had actually advanced from the samsara stage to the reincarnation stage. I was wondering why you had the courage to fight with me. It turns out that you have actually advanced into the reincarnation stage. Surprise flashed across the eyes of the Seventh Seat King before he laughed coldly and said. Lin Dong parted his lips into a smile when he heard this. However, his smile appeared quite ferocious. He did not reply, but merely slowly clenched his hands. Bright purple gold light erupted from inside and his body, seemingly causing his body to bulk up in size. Roar! A dragon roar reverberated across in the area. 10,000 purple gold dragon tattoos circulated around Lin Dong's body. As they swirled around his body, their frightening power seemed to shake the land. After Lin Dong truly advanced into the reincarnation stage, he achieved complete mastery in the green heaven materialized dragon skill. Even if Jingji was present, he could only nod his head in admiration in the face of such mastery. Lin Dong's body slowly swelled. His skin took on a shade of purple gold color as purple gold scales emerged. At this moment, his physical body was approaching the strength of the Chaos Master. Lin Dong extended his hand and suddenly clenched it. 10,000 purple gold dragon tattoos agglomerated in his hand. Subsequently, purple gold light blossomed and it turned into a purple gold dragon spear that was 12 feet long. The dragon spear was covered in scales, and there was a huge dragon mouth at its tip. Sharp dragon teeth from its mouth. Cold light flowed on the spear, and its sharpness was enough to tear space itself apart. Lin Dong stood in the air. He held the purple gold dragon spear in his hand as he felt the seemingly endless strength within his body. After which, he involuntarily let out a long howl towards the sky. Thunder rumbled within the howl. This was the first time he had brought out his full power ever since he had advanced to the reincarnation stage. With this overflowing strength, it was as though he could even shatter the sky with his fist. Lin Dong's purple gold suffused eyes were filled with yearning to do battle. He stared at the Seventh Seat King in an excited manner. What he desired now was a hearty battle. Humph! The Seventh Seat King let out a cold snort when he saw Lin Dong soaring battle intent. His hands slowly lowered as demonic chi surged from his palms. His arms gradually lengthened a little and became pitch black like metal. His nails were now 3 feet long and appeared akin to sharp swords. Ear-piercing screeching sounds could be heard when his nails gently rubbed against each other. You will need to experience 2 reincarnation tribulation to fight this seated king. A cold glint flashed across the eyes of the Seventh Seat King. His body moved and he appeared behind Lin Dong in a ghost-like fashion. Those sharp nails tore through the air with lightning speed. They ruthlessly pierced towards Lin Dong's back with indescribable speed and viciousness. Ch. The sharp nails accompanied by the demonic chi penetrated through Lin Dong's body. However, no blood flowed out. Instead, the figure began to gradually fade away. The eyes of the Seventh Seat King narrowed slightly after his attack missed. He suddenly turned his body as sharp nails thrust forward like a sword. Clang! The purple-gold dragon spear was accompanied by a majestic strength as clashed head-on against the sharp nails. An energy ripple that was visible to the naked eye spread, causing the surrounding space to be shaken until it distorted. Dragon spear in hand, the dragon scales on the surface of Lin Dong's skin flickered with a dazzling luster. His eyes were icy as he stared at the seventh seat king. After which, his arm jerked and brilliance exploded from the dragon spear. The dragon spear turned into countless spear shadows that crazily thrust at the seventh seat king. Every one of these spear shadows possessed a frightening power that could kill a Samsara stage expert. The seventh seat king watched the wild and violent spear shadows head towards him from all directions. Demonic chi burst out from his body and the sinister Devil Emperor armor was revealed. Clang clang. The wild and violent spear shadows ruthlessly landed on the Devil Emperor armor, sending the seventh seat king flying backwards. Faint scars surfaced on the Devil Emperor armor. You have indeed become a lot stronger. The seventh seat king frowned slightly when he saw the scars on the Devil Emperor armor. During the last encounter, Lin Dong had only able to damage the Devil Emperor armor after using his strongest trump card. Now, Lin Dong attacks were able to penetrate the Devil Emperor armor and slightly impact his body. Nevertheless, such injuries were nothing to him. Swoosh! Lin Dong did not show any signs of replying. Silver light flashed on his body and he directly appeared above the seventh seat king. The dragon spear in his hand mercilessly pierced towards the top of the seventh seat king's head. Clang! A pitch-black arm covered by the Devil Emperor armor suddenly reached upwards. Like a shield, it blocked the dragon's spear. However, the frightening strength that surged from the latter caused the seventh seat king's body to fall slightly. Humph! A cold glint flashed across the eyes of the seventh seat king. His sharp demonic sword-like nails drew a tricky arc as they took the opportunity to slash across Lin Dong's chest. Scree! Sparks erupted as the nails cut across the dragon scales, leaving behind a long bloody wound on Lin Dong's chest. Fresh blood flowed from this wound. The pain in his chest did not cause Lin Dong's expression to change at all. Instead, a bloodthirsty glint flickered in his pitch-black eyes. Subsequently, his hand slid down along the dragon spear. A strange glow flickered on his arms as they turned into a liquid-like state. Ancient symbols seemed to be floating within the liquid-like arms as a mysterious strength spread. The eyes of the seventh seat king flashed when he saw the liquid arms of Lin Dong, which were permeated with the power of the ancestral symbols. With a jolt, his body turned into black smoke and rapidly pulled back. The seventh seat king knew how formidable the power of the ancestral symbols were, and his naturally would not be foolish enough to allow Lin Dong to successfully hit him. Can you really avoid this? However, the corners of Lin Dong's mouth merely lifted to form a cold smile when he saw the seventh seat king attempts to dodge. Silver light suddenly flashed and both of his arms seemed to reach into space and strangely disappear. The seventh seat king's pupils shrunk when he saw Lin Dong's arms disappear. However, before he could react, he saw the space in front of him split apart in a mysterious manner. Two liquid palms extended from within at lightning speed and heavily slammed into his chest. Bang! A deep muffled thud emerged and the body of the seventh seat king flew backwards. The demonic chi within his body surged chaotically. Two half-finger deep palm prints could be seen on the Devil Emperor armor over his chest. Spatial ancestral symbol. The seventh seat king cried out sharply as his expression changed after receiving the strange attack. Congratulations, you are correct. A cold glint flashed within Lin Dong's eyes. His attacks were completely merciless. The ancestral symbol hands were violently swung and directly penetrated through space. After which, they mysteriously appeared around the seventh seat king. The attacks were completely unpredictable, making it impossible to defend. Even the seventh seat king was caught off guard in the face of such strange attacks. He managed to block the attacks that descended from all directions by relying on the strong defensive power of the Devil Emperor armor. The island below had also descended into an intense battle. However, many people were secretly focused on the fight above. They understood that those two were the ones who would ultimately decide the result of this battle. They felt both happy and quietly shocked when they saw Lin Dong force the seventh seat king into a disadvantageous situation. They were naturally able to sense the strength of the seventh-seat king. His strength was not something that an ordinary reincarnation stage expert could match. It was unexpected that Lin Dong actually possessed the ability to fight the latter. Who would have imagined that the young man, who had merely represented the GU clan in battle back then, would actually become so abnormally strong within a short couple of years? This episode ends here.